So welcome back. We are going to do a few videos with our daughter Teresa and her husband Greg, asking some questions about making strong marriage, being good parents, and we think you'll enjoy the topics that they're going to talk about.
So I found that it's a little difficult for me to be involved in my children's life, especially like in their first few years. I just seem to be less important in helping my children to progress at that point. How can I remain involved in my children's life?
So the developmental issues involved in this, and I think it's pretty widespread. I would say common, it's typical, it's developmental, whatever. I think for most men to feel like in the early years we're not very involved. And lots of times for families that have more than one child, dad becomes more involved in the older child's life when the second child shows up.
Right.
Some of that is very practical because mom's focus needs to be more on the younger child. And so dad steps in there, but whether it's for whatever reason, I mean, we could have negative reasons for it or they could be good reasons. Dads interact better as the children get older.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of it. Some of the strengths that go along with being a dad, and so, you know, I subscribe to the sexism that there's a difference between moms and dads, and what we do, what we bring to parenting matters. And so dads do something different than what moms do. What moms do always matters, but it is pretty unique to the early time, right? Dads, there are practical things we can do to help our wives, but there are some things that we just cannot basically do. As our children get older, there's more that we can do. And so different writers have talked and researchers have talked about the differences. And some of those differences that come out of our character and our typicalities have to do with play. Play is really important.
Okay.
Moms play with their children, but they don't usually play in the same way as we do. We push boundaries more,
Yeah.
right? And we do silly things. Hopefully not overtly dangerous things, but we also are riskier. All of that matters. That's really important stuff that happens with the kids. There's also things that maybe happen for you internally that you might not, they're not so overt, they're not so explicit, but they matter so much that you kind of just need to know, and your wife needs to know, this is what I do, right? So right now you're working through completing your education. That's extremely important for your family. And so that is not directly something that your girls are like, oh wow, it's so great that dad's gone to school, right? No, but it's necessary for them. It's a piece of what they need. And then the goodness that you are doing now is a benefit to them later on, because it helps to give you opportunities and flexibilities and things in terms of how do you prioritize your professional life and also make sure that your family life is important and all of those kinds of things. So some of it is internal. We talked about attitudes before. Some of it is you making sure that you know that you have the attitude that my role matters. It's going to look different than my wife's role. And it is sometimes much clearer that my wife is doing these things that matter. At the same time, I mean, if Teresa was sitting here, she could have very valid questions that are typical to moms about how am I as a mom able to do such and such, right? These questions that really matter, typically really matter to moms, to women, that don't occur to us as men. So we each have our own kind of struggles. And I think probably, I'm guessing, but probably you have seen in your own interactions with your children already, and you've seen in other people's interactions, including in your own family of origin with your own dad, you've seen what dads do, right? How they interact and what the benefits seem to be. It's nice when those things are so clear to us that we see them, but there are times where it's not clear to us, but we are doing something that is of benefit, right? And so the play example came easily to my mind, but there's other things too. Again, one of the big things for males is we tend to have higher levels of confidence. We tend to have greater acceptance of risk. So those are things that our children, whether we have sons or daughters, right, they need to have those incorporated into their lives. And so we give implicit instruction in that by the ways we interact. And yeah, and I think it's very, very good for you to ask these questions. It's good for you to reflect on them and stuff. But it is the kind of thing that, as much as possible, and again, it usually comes fairly easy to us as men, that we're kind of like, yeah, it's okay. There's a meme that I've seen that has a mom and a dad lying in bed, and the mom has got this thought bubble coming out, and it's, you know, like 70 words of what she has done wrong with the day, right? How she's worried about it. And the dad, his thought bubble is, I'm a pretty awesome dad, right? And so normally that confidence is in place with us. Sometimes we can overplay it, and we need to review and think, what should I be doing better? But that confidence is itself kind of a gift that we kind of vicariously, instrumentally give to our children.
I see.
So.